Hello everyone, it is Monday, so I am recording again. Today is April 24th, 2017. And, well, this is like the fourth video I've done and I haven't yet really introduced myself, so why don't I start with that? My name is Melissa, but everyone calls me Missy. I live in a very small town in Arkansas with my husband and two kids, both boys. Neither one is a teenager yet, but one will be soon. It's frightening. We also have a few cats, a couple of dogs keeping us company, and a guinea pig named Warbacon. I like to knit and crochet, and occasionally I get to spin. And I have a loom I have not as yet learned how to use, but I will sometime soon, hopefully. And basically that's what I do with my life. I knit. Occasionally they get me talked into doing housework, but I try to avoid that as much as possible. It's just not healthy. Okay, I call this Missy's crazy knitting because I tend to get sucked into these huge, horrendous, insane knitting projects, like trying to knit 52 pairs of socks in a year, knitting a queen-size blanket in sock yarn on size 0 needles, you know, stuff like that. Because I'm crazy, basically. Okay, anyway, on to the knitting. I want to start with a finished object. These are my London House yarns for Founders socks. And I just used some Knit Pick Stroll in Navy for the cuff, heels, and toes. And there are, in fact, 2 of them. Yee. So they're just a plain sock, fish lips kiss heel, regular toe, have a little bit of a ladder going across there. Not too bad though. This side looks better. Not quite as much ladder. Sometimes that happens depending on the size needles I'm using. Usually it's not too bad, but every now and then you get one and it just kind of stands out when it's on the camera and you can really see where the needle break was. But it's not that obvious in real life, it just looks that way on the camera. Anyway, I'm looking forward to wearing these because they're Harry Potter socks. Who wouldn't, right? So, that is the only thing I have finished this week. I have made very little progress on a couple of projects, so I'm not really going to pull them out. I think I did maybe 2 rows on my shawl. I did a couple of rounds on my April shower socks, which are still not done. A few rounds on a couple other socks that are, you know, travel socks and stuff. Mostly what I have been working on is my blanket, the big sock yarn blanket. And I've got this notebook where I've started keeping track of how many squares I knit each week. And this last week, I knit 20 squares. It is the only thing I wanted to work on. I'd sit down and I'd just pick up my blanket and get working. I go through periods where it's all I want to knit on, and then I'll not work on it for months. Fortunately, there is no set time limit for that one. It'll just be done when it's done, which will be eventually. So I'll pull that out next week and show you all how it's looking. Now, the only other thing that I really got showable progress on is Monster Sock. This is the first one like this. I have about 6 skeins of this solid yarn that I'm using for cuffs, heels, and toes, and I'll just work on them till I run out. I am using a whole bunch of different yarns. Basically, any yarn that I have between 1 and 5 yards left goes in here. And anything shorter than a yard goes into a jar that I keep over here on my bedside table, and I use that for stuffing small toys and such. But anything longer than a yard goes in there, and I'm making socks out of them. I have not finished weaving in the ends. Cynthia, you might want to look away. My friend Cynthia, she hates seeing all my socks with all the ends hanging out. Yeah, it's going to be a while before I finish the ends on this one. But what I'll do is I'll put on a podcast or a movie or something, and I'll just sit and I'll weave in ends until I'm bored with it, and then I'll go work on something else. The joys of these socks is they don't ever actually have to get done. I'm when I have two that are done with the ends woven in, I'll wear those until I can add a third, and then I'll just, grab a pair and go. They're not matching at all. There is no way to make that kind of sock match. Well, there is, but even I'm not that crazy. I also started the Ferris wheel socks for a knit along. The Happy Knitting Podcast is running a plain vanilla sock knit along. So I started these. They do not match. They were never going to match because of the yarn. The cuff is Knit Picks Stroll in Dove Heather, which is light gray. And the body of the sock is Knit Picks Chroma Twist fingering, and the Ferris wheel colorway. So these are the Ferris wheel socks. They're just plain vanilla. They're for a plain vanilla knit along, so that's what they're going to be. I will do the heel and toe also in this. I will probably just do a Fish Lips Kiss heel and just a regular toe. I've not yet decided if I'm keeping these or if I'm giving them to a friend, but I'll decide that before I do the toe because her foot is a different size than mine. I am using Chaogu, however it's pronounced. These are from the sock set, the mini set. So these are size 0s. And I like this cable better than the fixed circular cable. The fixed circular cable is thicker. Quite a bit thicker, actually. These are the same size needles. They're both size 0s. But the interchangeable one is a lot thinner and more flexible. So it's easier to do 2 at a time. On these, this is a 24 inch, but on the I have a 40 inch of this as well. And I mostly use it for 1 at a time socks. I don't use it for 2 at a time. I end up with really huge ladders when I try using it, and yeah, ladders annoy me. I deal with them when I'm using double points because I really like using double pointed needles. But if I'm doing 2 at a time on a circular, part of the reason I'm using the circular is to avoid ladders. So I don't want to use one that will make me have more ladders. So I use that one specifically when I'm doing 1 sock at a time. So these I'm doing 2 at a time, and because the way the Chroma Twist is, it's never going to match between socks. Not with only having 100 grams. If I had 2, I might be able to make it match, but I'm not even sure then. So I didn't even try. I just divided it up into 2 50-gram balls and started knitting. So they'll look completely different probably all the way down. Now that knit along runs to the end of May, so I have plenty of time to work on those. But I did all that mostly while listening to an audiobook. I got a new... Oops, I forgot that yarn. I got a new audiobook this past week, and so I've been sitting and listening to that. And vanilla socks are the perfect thing to knit while listening to an audiobook because it gives me something to do with my hands so that I can actually pay attention to what's going on in the audiobook. If I'm not doing something with my hands, I completely lose track of what's going on in the audiobook, and I start fidgeting and playing with my phone and all sorts of other things, and all of a sudden I have no idea who the audiobook's talking about. So I try to always have something that I'm working on while I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast. I also started the sock blank socks. This is a sock blank from Conjoined Creations that I got forever ago. I don't even remember when I got it. It's old enough it's not in my Ravelry stash. So I am working on that. I have the second one started as well, but this is the one I'm the furthest along in. And I've got one of these things from Knit Picks, but they're cardboard and they get crushed really easily. So I only have the one now. Oops. I'm using Knit Picks size 0 wooden needles, and yeah, if I'm going to keep doing 2 at a time concurrently like this, I'm going to need to get another set. I keep breaking them. I set them down in the seat next to me to get a drink or something. I reach over to grab it and I break one. It's just part of doing it on size 0 needles is small. When you're using wooden ones, they break really easily. So I haven't decided if I'm going to replace some of these or not, but I'll probably will go ahead and get another set. Now what I'm doing on these is I did a 2x2 cuff, but every fourth round I did a mock cable, a right twist, and then I'm continuing that up in lines along the side. This is the center back, so when it's split for the foot, I'll have a cable running along one side and along the other, and then there'll be plain stockinette here, and the sole will be all plain stockinette. That's the idea anyway. I've seen several that are similar to this, but I'm not really using a pattern. I'm just kind of doing it. And you can't really see the cables in this yarn. It's a lot more variegated than I expected it to be. That's just one of the hazards of working with a sock blank. Now, on part of the reason I'm doing this pattern is the Gales art that I showed last week, the brown tweed and rusty bucket that I'm going to do for my husband. I'm thinking of doing this pattern, so I wanted to work it out in my size while I have my foot, right here, so that I could see how much it draws in and how much I'll need to change cast on amounts and stuff for his socks. His feet are a fair bit bigger than mine, so yeah, I don't always have his foot available to work with either. Mine is always with me. That's best part of having of knitting socks for myself. I don't have to worry about sizing it. I just, pull my other sock off and stick the new one on, and if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, well, then I rip back, or I throw it over in disgust and decide later to finish it for the son. The other one, I've only gotten basically the cuff done on it, so I'll work on it later today probably. But I'm being very, very careful with my project bag because, like I said, these are wooden needles, which means you don't leave them sitting around unless you no longer desire to have the needles. So it's a little slow going. When I get to the foot, I may switch them over to a circular. I've got some circulars in my bag here. Just some 40-inch knit picks, size 0s. And I may switch them to those. I haven't decided yet. We'll just see when it goes there. I'm actually a little faster on double points, so I tend to go that way if I can, just because it takes me less time to finish, and I'd like to have these finished by the end of the month. So, yeah. I just started them this week, and I want to finish them by the end of the month. You remember what I was saying about crazy projects? But that is in my Slip Stitch Studios Princess Leia bag, because I don't have any Star Wars yarn to put in it yet, so it gets whatever I happen to be putting in it. And that's, well, I've got this. These are the Gimli socks, so I have been working on them. And I am through the gusset, the heel turning gusset on both socks, and I have put them back on one circular needle, and I'm starting the chart again to do the foot. So those, I'm still making very, very slow progress on them, but they'll get finished eventually. Fortunately, the person they are for is understanding with how long it takes me to finish socks when they have a big, huge cable pattern like that. A plain vanilla sock I can finish fairly quickly, but when I'm adding in cables and stuff, I can really only work on it in the evenings and for maybe an hour or two if I'm lucky, because otherwise I've got kids bugging me and cats running over the top of me and dogs wanting to be let out and to be fed again because the kid didn't feed them before he went to bed like he was supposed to. Yes, that happens. And so, yeah, the pattern ones just take me longer. But she's been really, really, really good about understanding how long it takes. So, hopefully she watches this and gets to see how her socks are looking. And that is all I have made progress on this week. I didn't do any of my crocheted blanket. I just didn't feel like crocheting this week. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So, future projects. I don't remember if I showed this when I got it a couple of weeks ago, but this is some yarn from Play It Life Fiber Arts. It's 85% merino, 15% 85 merino, 15 nylon, and the colorway is called Don't Night Moves Me. It is a Supernatural reference, and when I finish my other vanilla socks, the Ferris wheel socks, these will probably go on the needles as the next one for the vanilla knit along. Also for the vanilla knit along, I have this. I cannot pronounce their name. It's this sock. It's merino nylon. And it's this speckled blue. Very pretty. And I have this solid blue from Miss Babs. Let's see if I can get a decent color on it this week. Yummy 2-ply toes in McHale's, which I'm guessing is a reference to McHale's Navy. But it's this deep blue, and I'll use this for at least heels and toes, probably also the cuff. And yeah, I'll do those vanilla socks as well for the vanilla knit along. Because I can never do one pair of socks for a knit along, I have to try to do all the socks for all the knit alongs. You'd think I would learn. Sadly, no. I've already picked out the yarn for next month's Inside Number 23 Harry Potter knit along. It will probably also be a vanilla sock, but it is, which way is up? There, that is up. London House Yarns in Molly's Rainbow. Whoa, drop it. Molly's Rainbow. So it's the same yarn as these socks in a different colorway. I will probably use the same navy cuff, heel, and toe just because I have it available, or I might use that light gray. I haven't decided. But those will probably also just be plain vanilla because I think they're self-striping. It's either a self-striping or a variegated, and I don't think it's going to hold that much pattern. So that's what I'm planning for next month. We'll see how much I get done. Looking behind me to see what all I have. Next, I have acquisitions, as they call it. I got stuff in the mail. The mail lady likes me this week. I will start this next one by saying, if you are sensitive to language, you may want to skip ahead a couple of minutes because this one has bad language. It just does. This is from the website Fuck Off, I'm Knitting. Don't Tread on Me sock. And the colorway is Don't Be a Twat Waffle. One of my friends saw this and she sent me a link because she said I needed this sock yarn. She's right. I needed this sock yarn. This sock yarn is gorgeous. I have not decided yet if it's going to be a shawl or socks, but it's beautiful and I love it. It's this deep blue and then it's got pink and this light green. It's gorgeous yarn, and they have a whole line of just, if you like dirty language, you would like this website, and it's fuckoffimknitting.com. And they have one line it's all go fuck yourself. And I keep thinking, okay, that's the Wolverine line because he says that in X-Men First Class. So I'm thinking Wolverine would approve of this yarn. So I got that yarn. I think it's beautiful. And that will definitely be something for me because nobody else is getting that yarn. If you want that yarn, you have to go buy it yourself. Next, I have a book, which I may or may not pronounce this correctly. This book is from Sweden. And I asked a friend how to pronounce it, and she said it's Tant Olsak. So hopefully I said that right. It is by Anna Bergman. And it has a lot of colorwork socks. So, a lot of colorwork socks. So my hope is to eventually work up to being able to knit all of these. The one I really, really want to knit, and the reason I bought the book, is this pair. And it's called the Citrus Socks. And I really want a pair in those colors. So I'm going to be digging through my leftovers of Knit Picks palette yarn and seeing how closely I can get to those colors and seeing if I can make those socks. My colorwork leaves a lot to be desired at this point, but I am getting better at it. So working through this book ought to really make me really good at it. So I don't know when I'm going to start those yet, but I may start them next month because the Socks from Stash group is doing, in their yearly knit along, May is knit a pattern from a book. So I'll either do something from this book, or I will do from the Enchanted Soul. There's a pattern in there called Lothlorien that is based off of Lord of the Rings. And I want to knit all things Middle Earth. And I have a green sparkly yarn from the Cyborg's Craft Room in her A Sparklate base. And it's called the Elven Wood. So I may do it in that. On that, I don't know. When I decide, I'll tell you next week. I also had a friend send me a little needle holder for when I'm knitting on my double points, and this keeps them from the stitches from going off the ends of the needles, which is perfect for throwing them in a project bag when you've got a kid or a cat that might run off with your project bag, which you then have to chase them down. It keeps the stitches on your needle. This one is from You So and So, You Like the Sheep. And it has octopus, octopi on it. Octopus is whatever the correct plural of that is, and seaweed. And the inside has snaps, and it has fishies. So I have to keep this away from my kids and my husband because they all love sea life. No, they wouldn't really run away with my stuff like that. Not on purpose. They don't do that. But they would really like this. So it's very nice, and now that I've shown you guys, I can start using it. So, yay. I'm excited about that. My friend is super awesome. She really is. She sent me the Don't Night Moves Me sock and the blue speckles. She sent me those because she's cool. She also contacted me and offered up a prize for the upcoming scrap knit along. She sent this lovely bag of minis, and they're all sock weight yarn, and she said I could keep some and give away some, so I'm keeping 2 of them. 2 of them are for me because they're awesome. I try really hard not to just throw this in my sock yarn blanket and say, what minis? But she offered this as a prize. So thank you, Tiara. You are like super awesome. So that is going for a prize for the scrap knit along. And the 2 I am keeping are this one, because I don't have a lot of these colors in my blanket. And this one because it is neon. Let's see if I can get a little truer to color over here. There we go, that's a little better. It's very, very bright green. So, it goes well with my Edison bulb yarn. So, those are going in my blanket, the rest are going for prizes. Speaking of prizes for the knit along, I contacted one of my favorite designers, Raven Knits on Ravelry, and she designs shawls, and she has a couple other things, like a couple mitten patterns and stuff. And her patterns are usually based on nature or on, in some way, the Middle Earth or just Tolkien in general. And she has agreed to let me gift a pattern of hers to one person for the knit along. So it'll be a pattern of your choice up to a certain dollar amount. I need to look, but I believe most of hers are around $6. And yeah, if I'll just do a random number draw from posts with pictures in them from the chatter thread. So on that, I have decided when the start and end date are. The scrap along, because it doesn't have to be knitting, it can be crocheting if you'd like. But it will start on June 1st and end on July 31st. So it's a 2-month knit along. You do not have to finish anything. Just post progress pictures of things that you have been working on, knitting or crocheting. And each post with a picture will be eligible for a prize. What I'll do is I'll go into the chatter thread and I'll click on the posts with images, and I'll use that to draw a random number to pick for the prizes. So far we've got 3 prizes. We have the big sock yarn set, a pattern from Raven Knits, and a mini skein of merino, yak, and silk from Gail's Art. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'd like to see a lot of people participating, so if you know anyone who would enjoy it, let them know about it. It would be great to have a bunch of people just using up their scraps. And it does count during, I have a fly. It will run during the same time as the Knit Girls Stash Dash runs. So if you're doing that, it counts for both. Double dip, triple dip, dip how many ever times you can. Use it for as many knit alongs as you can. The Freakish Lemon is doing a blanket knit along or make along for this whole year. So if you work on a scrap blanket during that time, I would encourage you to post over there as well. There's several people working on blankets at the same time, and it's been very encouraging. A very encouraging group in my experience. And that's based off the Freakish Lemon podcast, which is an excellent podcast to watch. And I really enjoy it. When it comes up, it's one of the first on my YouTube feed showing, hey, there's a new video. It's one of the first things I watch. I watch that, and I watch the Knit Girls pretty much as soon as the video is released. And yeah, that's all the yarn I pulled out. So I guess that's all I have for this week. It's going to be a fairly short video, but it's also going up a little late. I had a really hard time getting moving today. It's very much a Monday. I want to curl back in bed and go back to sleep. Now, I am going to upload this, but all the editing and stuff, I'm going to leave that to my husband. He wants to help me with the editing and stuff, so I'm going to leave him to it, and I'm going to sit back here and knit some. And let him do all the computer stuff, because he's much better at computer stuff than I am. So he will upload it, and he'll let me know, and I'll post a link in the Ravelry group as soon as it's uploaded. So yeah, that's all I get. So that's all I have. That's all I get. Wow, I need more coffee. All right, see y'all next week. Bye.